on my way to work, and I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind. I was praying to God recently, and I started thinking about the aspect of holiness and how holiness and generations, the kind of seed we leave, the kind of legacy we leave for our kids, our grandkids, and our bloodline. And what came into my spirit, and I believe it came from God, was when you are holy, it's easier for you to be a conduit for God's blessings to flow from you into your bloodline. Always hear about generational consequences or curses. Someone in some family did something many years ago, and that was a conduit for familial spirits or evil or things that are difficult to run through the bloodline. And now your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids are dealing with the consequence. And you see in the scriptures, and look at King David. King David allowed himself to fell into lust, took someone's wife, killed the husband, and from that point his legacy was tainted. You now had the sword that never left his family. You had incest that happened, the death of his son, actually the death of two sons, and then you have Solomon that comes and can't control his own lust as well. And the kingdom was really never the same after that, even though of course there was forgiveness and redemption and all that sort of stuff. And we see it every day. Even let's even look at it in its most simplest form. You're married, you're supposed to be faithful, either party. Somebody falls, there's a divorce or even tension, and there's a split. The kids who were born into this, who need innocence and need a comfortable environment, are now thrown into this chaos, and the next thing, they develop certain vices that they're used to cope, and their lives are never the same. So just like you're a conduit for wrong things to affect your bloodline, you can be a conduit for good things to affect your bloodline. And many times we don't recognize that the life we're living is not just about us. When we talk about legacy, people talk about financial legacy as though that's all that matters. Fact of the matter is that by the third generation, if money isn't handled well, money can go. But there's one thing that you can leave with your kids that will never fall, and that's Christ. Their unshakable faith in God, because the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you leave them with the fear of God and they now have wisdom, even though maybe what you put in place doesn't work, they have their own wisdom that they can use to implement for their own purpose and accomplish. So being holy is not to be chuckled at. Fighting the battle of controlling your flesh and controlling your mind and your actions is not and obeying God's command is not something to shrug off. Oh, I know I'm saved, I'm gonna make heaven anyway. What about the seed you leave behind? We claim we love our offspring. What are we leaving behind? If we want things to change for the better, what are we leaving behind? So my thought for me is, I want my offspring, I want the things that have fallen through the generations to no longer affect my bloodline. That's what I'm praying about. So what do? I make a commitment to be devout to God, to be holy inside and outside, to put away those things that He has said I should never be part of again, to dedicate my life in worship to Him, to be a living sacrifice and a temple that He can be proud to dwell in, and pray and believe that as long as I'm positioned in this place, it is easier for God to bless me and it to pour out as a conduit, not just for my kids, but for people I come in touch with. This is very important. We don't live for ourselves. As much as we live in an individualized society where it's all about sometimes me, that's the narrative, it really isn't true. There's so much more around our spaces. There's so many, we all affect each other. This whole world, we all affect each other. We all affect each other. Who shared the gospel with, for example, Billy Graham? We don't know. But that man's word or that woman's word changed one man's life, who changed millions of lives. And those millions that he changed, who knows who they have changed? We don't know. They're not in the media. But imagine one seed growing and growing and growing. That's been a conduit for God's holiness and righteousness. And I say it, my encouragement is, if you have children, If you have anyone you love, live holy as a Christian. Live holy. Commit yourself to the Lord. Cleanse out your bloodline so that the blessings of the Lord in Christ Jesus will flow through you and erase the negativity that's been in your bloodline and give your bloodline hope and a future and a purpose. Thank you. I hope that helps somebody.